We were supposed to stay at my parent-in-law's house for a few nights during the new year. The three of us, my husband, my daughter, and myself. But I was suddenly called to come into the office right then because I had been taken ill for a whole month and I sadly couldn't go. I asked my husband to go alone with our daughter, and he graciously accepted, assuring me that they would have a great time. But when I called my daughter during a break at work on the day they were scheduled to leave, she told me something so shocking and completely unexpected. She told me that she was at home alone. I called my in-laws to try to get some more information before rushing home, and I found something in the house that changed everything. I looked at it fearfully, and there it was. This is the story of how my husband did the unthinkable, leaving his own daughter at home alone in the process, and how his family and I worked together to give him the consequences he deserved for his heinous actions. My name is Florence, and I'm 40 years old. I used to live with my husband Bryden and my daughter Mindy. Bryden is a domineering man by nature and has a strong stereotype that women are all supposed to do all the housework. The most probable cause of this mentality is Bianca, my mother-in-law. Bryden is her only son, and because she spoiled him rotten as he grew up, it's only natural he became arrogant and selfish. However, those traits of his basically a backwater. Usually, Bryden is a very kind man, and oftentimes, the worst I feel about him is that he's a little bit out of character, but these little quirks of his were never enough to cause problems in our life together. Although I did mention he was domineering, he was still a great husband in the sense that he didn't deny me my own existence, so to speak. He just didn't do any of the housework, and that was it. And frankly, I didn't think that would be a problem when we got married. And since I was good at housework myself, I felt that I was more grateful to him for being someone unwilling to help out. Considering my own personality, I thought that having him help me with the housework would only make things more difficult and frustrating for me. But it was slightly different when it came to raising our daughter. Even in that aspect, he held an adamant attitude about one thing in particular. As a woman, taking care of a child is all your responsibility, and I, as a man, shouldn't have to do anything. Given the relationship he would have with his daughter, I want him to participate in parenting and have a strong connection as father and daughter. I have my own dad to thank for that. I have many memories of him playing with me when I was very young, and because of that, we're still very close. That's the kind of parent-child relationship I want for them. But Brighton didn't seem to think the same way, and for example, when I asked him to change a diaper.
Why do I, a man, have to change diapers of a child?
I'm a little busy right now. Can you do it for me?
Look, I'm gonna say this once. You're the woman, and therefore, you're the one who's supposed to be raising the baby. I'm out there working and providing the most for the family, right? I'm already doing my part, so I don't have to raise a kid.
I was planning on going back to work when Mindy turned a year old, but I didn't know if he'd be willing to help once I did. I was sure he wouldn't. I knew there was nothing more I could say to him on the subject, so I gave up trying to convince him to help me with raising our daughter. In this manner, 4 years passed without Brighton helping me raise our daughter. My daughter celebrated her 5th birthday, and we invited my parents and my in-laws to a family dinner party to celebrate. My daughter seemed very happy because she was the star of the show. My in-laws paid for the kimono, photos, etc., instead of giving her a congratulatory gift, which was very generous of them, and my own parents gave her money as congratulations. I was planning to save all of it in the bank account I'd made to provide the money for anything she wanted to do in the future, hopefully university. But Bryden asked,
What are you gonna do with this money?
I think I'll save it in Mindy's bank book. It'll be a good contribution.
Oh, I don't think you don't have to save it, honey. I want a new coat. I'll use the money she got today for buying it.
That surprised me and my parents, and we fell silent for quite a long time afterwards.
This is the money that we're giving to our granddaughter, son. And it's normal for you guys to use that money for her, and only for her. Wait, really? But the other day, I used the money in that account to go shopping. I bought a snowboard. My favorite brand came out with a new limited edition design. It was perfect because my old snowboard finally bit the dust last session. But I didn't have any money, so I had to use some of Mindy's money.
He was actually laughing as he said so. I was so surprised that I couldn't speak. Then I heard a thump on the table. It came from Fletcher, my father-in-law. I did mention Brighton was spoiled by his mother, but he was anything but spoiled by his father. He wasn't afraid of his mother-in-law. In fact, he was a complete mama's boy, but he was scared shitless of his father. He wouldn't tell me the answer no matter how many times I asked him why. But when Fletcher was in the vicinity, he was a lot quieter than usual, and he helped me and Bianca as though his ideas of woman's role in the house never existed in the first place. So when he sensed that Fletcher was angry with him, he trembled.
You're messing with other people's money again, eh, boy? You've been touching your own daughter's money, no less.
Again? I asked him what he meant by that, and he gave a very good answer.
That's right. You don't know about this one, do you? This troublesome badger took the money out of my paycheck bag and bought himself one of those damn video games. He could have bought it with his New Year's money, but I guess he thought it was stupid that his mother was in charge of his New Year's present.
And he told me how it happened.
Don't talk about it, please.
Fletcher's anger didn't simmer down even after Brighton seemed genuinely apologetic about that particular incident.
So you haven't changed as a human being at all since then, have you? Stupid bullshit.
He proceeded to get up, stride over to where his son sat, and grab by the collar. We were celebrating Mindy's 5th birthday right on that day, and I knew it was a bad idea to get into trouble here, so I did my best to stop him. I couldn't keep him from disciplining Brighton by myself, so Bianca and my own dad stepped in to help subdue him, and the situation was settled right then and there, but the atmosphere was no longer one of the celebrations. But instead of bitter awkwardness, the dinner party was cancelled, and we decided to go back home. Mindy was so scared about what she had just witnessed, so much so that she looked down without talking at all until we got home. She fell asleep in the car, so I carefully carried her up to the room and put her to bed. And then I went back downstairs to talk about the situation with Brighton. So back me up. Why did you spend some of Mindy's savings?
Why would anyone get so angry just because I bought something I wanted? What the hell is wrong with you, Dad?
You don't understand why he's angry with you, or why I'm also angry with you? I feel genuinely disgusted by his lack of repentance. You really don't understand, do you?
Mindy's savings is basically our money, or money from our parents, right? It's not like someone we don't even know is secretly depositing more money into her account, right? Who cares about who spends the money given to the family by the family?
That is so stupid, Brighton. I cannot believe you'd use Mindy's savings without asking for anyone's permission. I can't believe you didn't ask me my thoughts about it.
The hell? You're just as picky as Dad. A fuss like that is more than enough for me to never want to ask for your advice again.
You never consult me about anything before you take action. You never think about how one of your decisions could affect us, Brighton.
But look at you now, making a problem about it. Saying that I never should have bought what I was hoping to get. I'm just glad I didn't confide in you beforehand. If I had, I would be significantly less happy than I am now, so...
When I heard those words, I realized he had no remorse whatsoever. This was a huge red flag for me, and it made all possibilities of future actions extremely easy. I don't trust you anymore. I want a divorce.
Wait, what? A divorce? You can't be serious.
There's nothing funny about it. Money is very important, even amongst the members of a family, Brighton. And anyone who takes the important responsibility lightly isn't someone I'm willing to be with. I want a divorce.
No divorce, absolutely not. I'll pay you back the money I used to buy the snowboard with my next bonus. Just please, don't demand a divorce, please.
By that point, I had lost all faith in him, so nothing he said resonated with me at all. However, I quickly became afraid about Mindy, and that she may feel sad and lonely in the future about losing her daddy. If it meant sacrificing even a little of my daughter's happiness, it made me pretty hesitant to divorce him. All right, you've convinced me. Promise me then.
Promise you anything.
You will never touch Mindy's savings again, and you must discuss matters that involve quite a bit of money with me. If you break either of those promises, I'll divorce you more quickly than you shall fall to the floor and beg for forgiveness.
Okay. I won't ever do something like that again, I promise.
And so the matter was peacefully settled. 4 years have passed since then, and Brighton had kept his promise for all that time. I manage our daughter's bank book, and he didn't know where it is in the house, so even if he wanted to touch it, he couldn't. Apart from that, he had been faithful with money in general. wherein if he wanted something that would cost anything more than $100, excluding regular groceries, he always asked me for it. And with every passing year, perhaps, he became satisfied with what he had because he didn't seem to want many things anymore. And 4 years ago, when he made that promise to me, Bryden became kinder and more considerate of our daughter and began to participate a little bit in raising his daughter. We were moving in the right direction, or so I thought. Bryden and I both worked at the same company, and towards the end of every year, we were both very busy with work. We were so busy that working quite a bit of extra hours every night became the norm for perhaps 3 weeks, and we both often came home later than usual during the period of turmoil. What was strange was that he didn't used to work many extra hours, but during the last 2 years, he had been working a lot of overtime. Even during the regular year, Mindy really seemed to miss him, but it couldn't be helped because he had to work. Listen, Mindy, darling, Daddy is as hard as he can for you these days. We'll be able to spend time with him after New Year's, so do you think you can be a strong girl and patient for a few more days? Mindy nodded her head in agreement without uttering a word. A few days passed, and one day I received a phone call from Fletcher, my father-in-law. We actually hadn't seen each other ever since that incident of 4 years prior, but I kept communication between both he and his wife.
Hello there, Florence, my dear. It's been a long time. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Fletcher. It's so nice to hear your voice after, 4 years now?
Yeah, 4 whole years. Time really does fly by like a damn bullet sometimes, it seems. It's good to know everyone's doing good. So down to business. We haven't seen Mindy lately, so if you want, you can come stay with us during the New Year's season.
Staying with you? I asked Fletcher to confirm I'd heard correctly. There was some static on his end. Maybe he was in a car or somewhere. And I know Mindy heard me because she sprinted to where I sat and started to jump up and down saying, "I want to go, I want to go, I want to go," in enthusiastic repetition. Well, looks like someone's sold on the idea. Of course, Fletcher, if you're truly fine with it, we'll gladly stay over a few nights. I replied. Mindy seemed very happy. When Bryden came home that night, I told him about the phone call, and he said,
Well then, it looks like we'll have to take the end of the year off for work, doesn't it?
Yep, well, I'll do my best to finish up the work that's piled up, and you do your best too, okay?
Tell ya. Let's go to my parents' house for the first time in a while.
My husband was also on board with the idea. Perhaps it was necessary in order to get the end of the year off, but he had to work more overtime than ever before. However, right as the end of the year was approaching, someone at my company got called in with a case of pneumonia. They wouldn't be able to come into work for a whole... In a nutshell, I had to go to work at the end of the year too. When I told my husband about it, he responded in a disappointed tone.
Oh, come on. Well, I guess there's nothing we could do about it then.
I'm really sorry, honey. I wish there was something I could do to change things, and I've never tried, but my boss said they really needed me for just a few days. I know I'm going to be able to make it in time for the New Year countdown, but until then, I can't go with you. So can you take Mindy to your parents' place and spend a few days there?
Sure thing. I'll let them know about your situation.
Thank you so much. It was hard for me to tell my in-laws that I had no choice but to partially ruin our plans, so it was kind of Bryden to do it for me. On the day they were going to my in-laws' house, Mindy looked sad that I couldn't go with her, but she became hopeful to see me again right when the New Year was upon us. I asked Bryden to take care of her, and I went to work. Around noon, I was wondering if they'd arrive at her grandparents' house yet, and I messaged her asking that very question. Little did I know, I was in for the shock of my life, as Mindy would reply this. "I'm at home alone right now, Mommy." I couldn't comprehend it and rushed to call her. Then she elaborated. "Dad said he was going somewhere and he never came back. Oh, Dad, where did you go?" "So you've been alone in the house ever since I went to work?" "Yeah, and I don't like it at all. Dad said that Grandma and Grandpa suddenly had some urgent business to do with the house and had told him not to come, so we had no choice but to stay home, and then he went with the car and I haven't seen him since." That was more than enough information to make up my mind. I told her to wait for me and that I would up a little bit of more work before going home within 2 hours. Her voice brightened a little bit when I assured her I was coming home, and after telling her I loved her, I hung up. Then I called my father-in-law. He didn't pick up at first, which made me suspect that they really were doing something with the house, but I attempted calling him again, and this time he answered the phone immediately. "Hello, Fletcher. I'm sorry to trouble you, but did you have something come up with the house today?"
Wait, what? Where did that come from, dear? No, the house is fine. And Brighton told me you had something urgent to do and couldn't come, right? He said that since it would be just him and Mindy coming home, he wouldn't go this time because he only wanted to go if you were coming too. He said that the three of you would come over once you were finished with whatever you had to take care of.
Oh, I see. That's only partially true, Fletcher, I'm afraid. The part where something urgent came up is true, but Bryden and I never agreed that he wouldn't take Mindy to your place. We agreed he would take her as they left on schedule, and I was wondering if they arrived yet, so I messaged Mindy, and it turns out she's at home alone right now.
Wait, what? That can't be true.
I couldn't come home because of work, so I entrusted her with Brighton, but he's apparently gone now.
Ah, shit. That boy's such a damn screw-up. Alright, don't worry about a thing, Florence, dear. We'll go to your place now, and you get back home when you're done with whatever you have to do, alright?
I'm so sorry, sir. Thank you. We'll talk again when I get home.
No worries, dear. Good luck.
I hung up the phone and rushed to finish my work as soon as possible. A few hours later, my boss saw me working in a pretty agitated manner, and perhaps she thought something was wrong and asked me what was going on. I explained the situation and she said I could go home, so I thanked her before hurriedly packing up my stuff and leaving. When I got home, Mindy was sleeping because she was tired from playing with her grandparents. I thanked them deeply for their help and further elaborated on the situation. I didn't know where Bryden had gone, so I called his phone, only to discover was ringing from the coffee table in the living room. He had forgotten his cell phone at home. I was struck by a sensation of guilt as I picked it up, but swallowed it and proceeded to check his messages. That's when I discovered there was a very active exchange of messages with another woman, someone by the name of Vivian. As I scrolled through the messages, I found out more and more of the truth.
So I was supposed to go to my parents' house, but my wife couldn't make it. So I'm gonna pull some string to pretend I can't go to my parents' house for the holidays. Or at least not yet. Looks like we'll have that end of the year you've been wanting to go to, darling.
Oh, yay! Then I'll open up my schedule for the 29th, alright? The 29th was today. There were a lot of other messages, and it completely confirmed Bryden was having an affair. I showed my in-laws the correspondence, and of course, Fletcher flew into rage, and Bianca looked crestfallen as I saw her hang her head heavy, quivering, breathing coming from her nose. No doubt the poor dear was on the verge of tears. We decided to find out where the date was and shit on their New Year's parade. We checked the messages further and we eventually found they were going to dinner at a hotel in front of the station. So after asking Bianca to wait at home with Mindy, Fletcher and I went to the hotel. We couldn't have arrived at a better time because just as we were stepping out of the car in the parking lot, we caught sight of Bryden and the woman called Vivian coming out of the restaurant looking happy and full. The restaurant immediately gave off the vibe of a 3-star Michelin, with extremely prominent colors illuminating the interior. The exterior was covered with Christmas tree lights, blinking different colors and patterns, revealing a smiling Santa Claus upon his sled and his reindeer running across what appeared to be a starlit sky. The words Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays flashed in red, white, and green. Frankly, the sight was majestic, but it could also give anyone normal human being epileptic seizures with how bright the flashing was. We marched towards them with murderous intent. Bryden quickly noticed us and tried to run away, but Fletcher was faster and tackled him, burying his face in the snow. We shoved them both into the car and headed home. Fletcher grabbed both of their coats and unsheared them inside, sat them both down the floor, and stood in front of them, stance robust, arms across, face expressionless with anger.
Care to explain what's going on here, boy?
Bryden was trembling, intimidated by his father's demeanor, and started talking. He spoke of how he had been having an affair, about how he had been lying about working late in order to meet up with this woman, and about how she had been buying things for him so he didn't have to confide in me with about money anymore. It turned out that Vivian is the vice president of a subcontractor of our workplace, and Bryden was only with her for her money. I was stunned to hear this, but I wasn't stunned with shock. but with shame. I felt ashamed of him as a husband and a man because he was willing to discard his own family for the sake of a woman rich enough to spoil him with things he wanted. I had another look at Vivian and I saw an older woman. She could potentially be seen as attractive in a kind and sexy older sister kind of way. In other words, she looked to be a bit desperate to find a man. And she was definitely of age, and I saw no ring on her hand. I concluded that he must really be with her to be spoiled. Bryden was talking all these stupid excuses to his father, not to me, and by golly, was I taken aback by that as well.
Hey, don't tell me all this stupid bullshit, boy. Look your wife in the eyes and tell her. Apologize to her now.
Bryden wouldn't meet my gaze and fell silent. Fletcher advanced to grab him by the collar, but Bianca stepped between them. Bryden smiled at her as if he thought she was going to protect him, as per freaking usual. "You stupid son of a bitch!" was what Bianca shouted instead, and she slapped her son across the cheek with such vigor even I could feel the impact.
Mom?
"I did not raise you like this. You are no longer my son." She shed a waterfall of tears as she became furious. The expression on Bryden's face was priceless. He must have been so shocked because he had never been scolded by his mother in his 42 years of living. I said to him, "I want a divorce. I don't trust you at all anymore. It's one thing to have an affair with another woman. It's something completely different to leave your own daughter at home and go off gallivanting somewhere."
Wait a minute, please. I swear on my life, this is not cheating. I never loved her, Florence. I was just with her for her money.
You sure got the guts and moxie to say such a cruel thing in front of the same woman. That's just freaking disgusting.
I'm not divorcing you, Florence. Please.
And then his father advanced and punched him across the left cheek with a flying fist of raging iron. Bryden was sprawling and cried as he stood shakily back up. Fletcher ordered him furiously to accept the divorce, and Bryden just nodded his head in response. Right then and there, I demanded alimony from him and the woman and for child support from him. Vivian, being the privileged vice president that she was, negotiated with me, and we came to an agreement. She would pay me all what she owed me in alimony right then and there, which was 20 grand. I wouldn't tell a soul about this incident. He shook hands on it, and she left a large sack built on the coffee table before she left, never to return. As for Bryden, he was complaining that he didn't have the money to pay it all in a lump sum. But Fletcher said,
"I'll add whatever you don't have so it can be done. And you were going to pay me back."
At that, Bryden replied with a quiet yes. Fletcher then proceeded to take my hands and say,
"I am really sorry about all of this, Florence. Bianca and I are going to take him home and discipline him properly."
"It's all my fault. I raised him the wrong way, and you and Mindy had to pay the price. I'm so sorry. I know it's too late by now, but I'm delusioned now, and I'm going to teach him how to behave well." With that, my parents-in-law took their son away. A few days later, I discovered a deposit in my bank account from a source in my ex-husband's name. I'm sure Fletcher kept his word and shouldered much of the alimony Bryden owed me, but I'm sure my ex-husband is not living a happy life. I hope he will be properly disciplined by his parents and grow to be a more decent human being from now on. As for me, my daughter and I moved out of the house and into a nice apartment close to where my parents live. I kept active communication with my colleagues and my boss, all of whom are helping me to find a good compromise with overtime work so that I can spend time with my daughter. My goal from now on is to be there for my daughter as much as possible so that she won't be lonely anymore.